Just thought I'd get this post-fight review over with real quickly. The fight between Kosei Tanaka and Yanga Sigqibo, Japanese versus South Africa matchup. Obviously, for Tanaka to look to establish high rankings within the WBC and WBO, though he's also very highly ranked in the IBF himself and has recently attended the fight between, or the IBF title fight between Yerwin Ancajas and Fernando Martinez. Tanaka, heading into this fight, was the significant favorite. I believe he was minus 704, and Sigqibo was around a plus 400 to win the fight. My prediction for the fight was Tanaka to win by unanimous decision, as was what occurred in the ring. Tanaka, in my view, was going to ultimately break him down to the body and be able to take over to the mid to late rounds and eventually find his distance. I felt his superior foot speed, his superior punch selection, and the fact that obviously he's an elite level body puncher, but also the fact that we've seen often Yanga Sigqibo pose a lack of resistance and him begin to doubt himself due to previous body work from other opponents in the past, like Harold Paklar. Many of you guys might have seen Paklar as he fought on the Zerto versus Bivol undercard against former WBA super flyweight champion Kal Yafai. He fought against Sigqibo himself, and while he was mostly outboxed during the fight, Sigqibo was able to smother him, use his clinch work, which is also a bit of a factor in this fight with Tanaka. He definitely did, he was arguably dropped a couple of times in the fight as the referee missed it, and the body work from Paklar, those solid, hard hooks to the body that he was able to explode in with, caused Sigqibo a lot of problems, and he was hurt a couple of times on a couple of instances. And the fact that he's not very comfortable on the inside and he's forced to clinch so frequently, due to the fact that he really has very little arsenal, he doesn't really throw much in the way of an uppercut, and he's also not the best really at shortening up his punches. He does put together some decent hooks to the body, but he prefers to keep fights at distance, and he likes to use his long guard to disrupt opponents' rhythm and stop them from being able to enter the pocket. That is his best way. That is his best way of, preventing incoming traffic. Tanaka, I thought, would struggle in the early rounds, as Sigqibo's clinch work was something Tanaka had really never seen before. Though he has fought clinchers in the past like Jonathan Gonzalez, his superior foot speed was allowing for him to get out of range more quickly, paired with the fact that Jonathan Gonzalez is a rather short guy, smaller than Tanaka, and wouldn't be able to hold the physical strength advantage, and Tanaka would be able to break free from those clinches more frequently, as compared to, juxtaposed to Yanga Sigqibo, who has the height, reach, and presumably weight advantage, although I can't be too sure about that. Sigqibo, early in the fight, was using his long guard. Obviously, when you're using a long guard, when you're fighting someone who is able to slip under punches or presumably has very good foot speed, you do leave your body open. We have seen that in even some of Terence Crawford's fights. Some of Tyson Fury's fights, when he employs the long guard, he does keep his body open, due to the fact that the long guard really only protects up to the face. When you're not keeping a hand low to protect the body, of course. The long guard keeps two hands up high, the right hand up to try to catch parry and counter punch, and obviously the lead hand to create traffic for the incoming opponent. Tanaka has improved in several aspects of his game, in my view, defensively, and the fact that he's parrying punches now. He's blocking punches. He slips punches even more effectively on the inside, and he does make himself hard to hit in certain instances when he's transferring between mid and inside. When he's stuck on a specific range, that's when he's most hittable, because that's when he's employing the least amount of movement and looking for counters. But when he's traveling between range, or with his feet at least, that's when he's hardest to counter, as when he's on the inside, he constantly changes angles, steps off the line, uses a lot of pivots to create shots and openings for around his opponents, and also mitigates his opponent's punching options due to the fact that he's stepping weak side away from their power punches, paired with the fact that Sigqibo doesn't shorten up his punches in an aforementioned point. Sigqibo, in the middle round, started to change his tactics up a little bit, and even won the 6th round, I'd say, due to his ability to punch on the move, forcing Tanaka to walk to him. But even still, the fact that Tanaka was still able to pick some very good body shots here and there, even at distance, and the fact that he was still able to travel in and out of range, even while Sigqibo was, using his mobility, still proved to ultimately wear the South African down. Tanaka has improved his inside game vastly. Early in his career, he was a long-range sort of a pot shotter. He would use a long guard himself. He would actually use his jab. He would occasionally throw flurries to the body on the inside when opponents would look to crash the pocket against him. But he himself would have the height and reach advantage over smaller opponents at 105 pounds. But now that that's dissipated, he's been forced to develop his inside game. And to be honest, he's developed quite a world-class inside game at that. Tanaka, in the fight, I will say there are certain weaknesses that he still does have defensively. He still does keep his head on the line and sometimes bring his feet together when he's walking forward on opponents and walking them down and trying to cut the ring off. And also one other defensive mishap that gets him caught is the fact that when he's in the pocket, when he drops his guard a lot, an instance where Tanaka does drop his guard and a lot of the time is when he's taking half steps back at mid-range. And this is going to cost him potentially against, taller opponents. Like, of course, it was costing him a little bit against Sigqibo. The fact that he takes half steps back in the pocket while Sigqibo was able to land on him even still when he was out of range, and he was dropping his guard. Now, a lot of fighters do that, such as, Chocolatito or Lomachenko. And they'll be in the pocket, and they'll oftentimes drop back their rear foot to sort of change range to some extent, but still be in range to counter with their lead foot, so that they can bring their foot back in position and come back with pull counters, which is what Tanaka oftentimes likes to do, but he likes to initiate it with a quick little short front foot step into his jab and into his 1-2 and really his uppercut in general, which he was able to catch Sigqibo with a fair bit. But nevertheless, that still did get him caught with 1-2s. And that is certainly an area where I think defensively he needs to work on. But his defense against the left hook was certainly far better. He's not nearly as upright when he's applying pressure. And when he gets close, he does remain in a crouch. And he also uses aggressive head positioning. Josh Warrington, you better listen to this motherfucker. He does use aggressive head positioning while still being able to avoid headbutts, because he does take his head off the center line and keep his head over his opponent's shoulders. So he's able to take away punch. So while he's able to simultaneously avoid headbutts, he's able to simultaneously also take away counter-punching options, as his head is over his opponent's shoulders, and they can no longer land punches to the head due to the fact that they cannot, unless they're able to take a step back, they cannot generate enough force into their punches to be able to land flush on his head. It takes away much of their body rotation and also gives him a lot of leverage on the inside himself. Tanaka has definitely, in my view, become a more nuanced fighter from the Kazuto Ioka fight. And while I do think there are certain improvements he needs to make, I do think if he's to receive a title shot next year, say against Fernando Martinez, I suspect he might very well be the favorite. But nevertheless, I thought the performance was solid from Tanaka. It's about what I expected. I had him winning 7-3. I gave the first, third, and sixth rounds to Sigqibo and the rest to Tanaka. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the fight. If you guys want to see the fight, by the way, as it is very difficult to find, I found it on a Facebook Live, which I will link you guys to if you guys can, maybe message me on a Discord or a Twitter, and I'll link you guys to where I was able to find the fight. But yeah, have a good one.